Welcome to our program, General Trinquand.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me.
US President Donald Trump says that Vladimir Putin has gone absolutely crazy. Also, he says that Putin is playing with fire right now. How can you assess these recent statements from US President Trump, and do you feel that this could mean a turning point and another turning point and change of stance towards Vladimir Putin?
I think that with Mr. Trump, we need to be very cautious. And usually I say when he's saying something, just wait 48 hours to understand if he will not say the contrary. But this time, in 48 hours, twice, he was very rude to President Putin. So perhaps it's the beginning of the wisdom for Mr. Trump, and probably is realizing now that Mr. Putin doesn't want at all an agreement and that he will continue to go to war.
Also, French President Emmanuel Macron says that Donald Trump has realized that Putin has lied to him. Do you also feel like that?
Yes, certainly. Mr. Putin is always lying. I mean, Mr. Trump is used to that because he's lying also. But then he thought that Mr. Putin was a great friend and they were able to be very frank with him. He just forgot something, is that Mr. Putin is coming from the KGB. And in the KGB, you are used to lie. And so that's why probably Mr. Macron, who met with Mr. Putin just before the war, and Mr. Putin at that time said, I will never attack Ukraine. We realized that he was lying. And so probably Mr. Trump is realizing that now.
Also, according to the U.S. Special Representative on Ukraine, General Kellogg, another round of negotiations could take place in Switzerland. Do you have any kind of a hope that Russia would make a compromise with Ukraine? Because according to Bloomberg and other media outlets, Russian delegation has demanded from Ukraine unrealistic concessions. They demanded from Ukraine full withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from its own 4 regions. Do you still have any kind of hope that Russia would make a compromise during these negotiations?
I've got no hope at all of a compromise by the Russian party. First, as you said, they decided that part of Ukrainian country was Russian. The 4 oblasts from the east were Russian. And so they are not occupying these territories completely, 70%, for example, for Kherson and Zaporizhia. So they can't accept that part of the Russian territory, what they claim to be Russian territory, is occupied by Ukrainian forces. That's the first thing. Secondly, they haven't changed their words, and they want that Ukraine is neutralized, will not join NATO, and several things like that. So I think that Mr. Lavrov said that after the prisoner exchange, there will be a memorandum proposed by Russia. And I guess that this memorandum will be always on the same line, which will be unacceptable by Ukraine, but also by the European.
And also, according to the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump is seriously considering imposing sanctions on Russia because of Putin's unwillingness to accept his 30-day ceasefire offer. Do you feel that these sanctions could become a game changer and could force Putin to make a compromise, or this would not be enough for him to persuade Putin to make the deal?
Well, I think it will not be sufficient. It will be useful, but we need also to reinforce all the weapon system to Ukraine, and specifically the Americans need to provide precise intelligence on the different targets in Russia in order to pressure Russia on the ground, but also with what is prepared actually in the Congress to put pressure on the economy of Russia. So we need both. We need intelligence, weapon system, but also pressure on the economy of Russia.
Do you feel that French President Emmanuel Macron and other European leaders are able to persuade Trump not only to impose sanctions, but also, as you just said, to provide Ukraine with important weapons, long-range capabilities, for example?
First, I think that there are things happening which are not on the news. And probably the Americans are continuing to provide weapon system. Secondly, there will be a NATO meeting in June in Netherlands. And during this NATO meeting, I hope that all the Europeans will be aside with Mr. Trump, showing that he needs to defend Ukraine and change his position. But this will be a long process because Mr. Trump is going from very far away for many months. Yes, he was on the Moscow side. So now he have to change because he needs help from the European elsewhere. And he needs to understand that Russia will not change his position.
Also, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says that the West no longer limit Ukraine's ability to strike deep inside Russia. Could this indicate any new upcoming decision from European leaders regarding strikes inside Russia, or do you feel that it was just information about previous decision?
I think that there are several things which are not open to the stage and to the news, but which happened. For example, British and French weapon system were already used. Now the German who opposed to use specifically the Taurus missiles have said with the new chancellor that they will do it with the agreement of the American, which is new. So I think that probably now everything have been leveraged for striking military targets in Russia. And the Ukrainians have the green light to use European and American weapon system, which will be a big change in the way to strike Russia in Russia.
And do you also expect Trump's administration to allow Ukraine to strike deep inside Russia with additional long-range systems, or you just expect Trump's administration to allow not to decline this European offer, not to resist to European green light to long-range strikes on Russia?
If we are listening carefully what the Chancellor have said, they have said with the American. So that means that if saying that, is that because they've got the green light from the US. So I think there is no discussion about that.
Let's also cover recent President Zelensky visit to Germany today. He met with the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Merz says that there would be a big deal made today. German factories and also a German military industrial base will begin to buy Ukrainian-made long-range missiles. What does it mean for this war and for Ukrainian military industrial complex?
The first point is that the new relation with Germany is welcome. Everybody applauds to the change in Germany. That's the first point. The second point is that the defense industry in Europe and in Ukraine are linked very closely for several reasons. First, because for 3 last year, Ukrainian army is fighting. So it's sad to say that, but it's a laboratory for all defense industry in Europe. Secondly, because we need to know what the Ukrainian wants as a weapon system and to provide them. So that's why I think the link are very close. And you've got in European industry in Ukraine, but you've got also research, Ukrainian research in European industry, and everything is going along.
Let's cover also situation on the ground in Ukraine. According to Bloomberg, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is confident that his army will be able to break through Ukrainian defense lines and capture the whole 4 Ukrainian regions until the end of this year. Do you believe that Russia can achieve this military objective?
First, I need to salute the brave Ukrainian soldiers who have been defending their land for 3 years and are successful. Doesn't mean that the Russians are not advancing, but they are opposing very strong forces against the Russian. That's the first thing. Second thing, Mr. Putin doesn't care about the number of soldiers killed or wounded. That's why he's advancing like he is advancing with Russian or other nationality in Ukraine. That's the second point. I don't think that with what the Ukrainians are doing, the Russian army will go very fast in gaining ground in Ukraine. But of course, we need to reinforce the Ukrainian army in order to oppose strongly the Russian forces. We'll see what will happen in the month to come. But I don't believe that the Russian will be able to completely enforce and breach the Ukrainian forces. Secondly, I'm pretty sure that the Russians need this war on the long term. Why? Because the war in Russia is a weapon in the hand of Mr. Putin against Russian people. That's the first point. Secondly, you've got 600,000 soldiers on the ground, which are largely paid by Russia. And these people can't go back into civilian society because they will not receive the same amount of money. And so this is a problem for Mr. Putin.
Also, according to Sky News, 50,000 Russian troops is based near the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv region. And from your perspective, what are the chances for another offensive of Russian side deep inside the Kharkiv and Sumy region? Because also Vladimir Putin has ordered his army to create security buffer zone along the Ukrainian border. What does this mean? And would the Russians be able to create this zone? Because the Ukrainian army has halted this new offensive in the Sumy region. Russians captured 3 villages in the Sumy regions. However, Ukrainian armed forces have halted this Russia's advance.
Yes, certainly the 2 major objectives in the short term for the Russian are to gain ground on the occupied oblasts, the 4 oblasts from the east. That's the first objective. The second objective is to extend a buffer zone in the region of Sumy and Kharkiv in order to protect the part of Russia which was occupied by Ukrainian forces, mainly the coast oblasts. So these are the 2 aims. Will the Russian succeed in that? I can't tell you. It all depends on the ability of the Ukrainian headquarters.
And also, do you feel that Russia is able to sustain this war for a while, to wage this war for many years without conducting full-scale mobilization?
Yes, I think they can do that. They are recruiting people from everywhere, from Asia, from Africa, and they are able to do that if there is what we call a hot ceasefire, meaning that they will stop at one stage. They will not lose so many soldiers. They are losing soldiers because they are on the offensive. If they are slowing the offensive, they are losing less soldiers, and then kept the soil where they are. And this can last several months or years.
And also, let's cover recent developments on the international stage. You just mentioned about this NATO summit in Hague this June. What are your main expectations, and do you expect participation in the summit of President Zelensky, or even direct meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump?
We need to be careful and not to mix subjects. The meeting in NATO is mainly as an objective to have US and European country united. So this is the important matter. If they are united, they will support Ukraine. But don't mix the support of Ukraine before having European and US standing together. So I think this is the main objective in 1 month time now. So it is not very important that Mr. Zelensky is there, because anyway he's not part of NATO. It is important that Mr. Trump is there to be with the European. And if they are united, they will support Mr. Zelensky.
And also, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says that allies will discuss defense spending, increase in the defense spending, as Donald Trump demanded from NATO members. Do you expect all members of NATO to rapidly increase defense spending to 3.5 or even 5% of the GDP?
All European countries will be by the summer at 2%. They need to increase by 3.5. The 5% is something else, because you add movement, you add cyber, you add different things. But 3.5 is the objective. Within the 3 next year, I think it is needed. Why? Because Europeans have been disarming their armies for years now, relying on the US. And Europeans can't ask every 4 years what will be the results of the US election. Europe is the third economical power in the world. They need to spend more money on defense to be autonomous, but to be allied with the US and able to support Ukraine.
And also, do you expect France to increase its defense spending and military budget?
I hope so. As you know, France is in bad shape in financial terms, so they need to be a strong reform. The Prime Minister will present them in July. I hope that this will happen, because France has a good budget, but if you've got no money to put in the budget, there's no way to have a good budget.
And also, how do you see the next French government's decision in support for Ukraine as the main one, and what kind of decisions also should be made in the nearest future from your perspective, from a military point of view?
I think that the French will continue to provide help to Ukraine, mainly with the new factories who are providing ammunition, for example. The equipment, we've got very few equipment to provide to Ukraine. As you know, all the Eastern countries were providing old Soviet equipment. We don't have that. And we are only providing the equipment that the French army is giving to Ukraine in order to be provided with new equipment. So it's not very much. But providing financing through EU, and France is providing a big amount of the money for EU in order to support the government of Ukraine, is also a major importance.
And do you feel that European allies are now increasing its military production lines to increase the amount of weaponry being produced every year?
Yes, it has been already increased. It will be increased in the next 3 years, but building a factory doesn't happen in an hour. It takes time. For example, for ammunition, 155 ammunition, it took 1 year to change the factory. So this is happening. And you know that yesterday, Europeans decided a budget of an increase of 150 billion euro for European industry in defense terms, and that's a major step.
Thank you, General Trinquand, for your time and for your support for Ukraine, and glory to Ukraine.